You know that magical moment when you realize your husband's business trips have been more like romantic getaways? Well, I discovered this little gem when his girlfriend decided to personally deliver the vacation photos to my phone. Because apparently, Amanda thought I needed a front row seat to their European love affair. My name is Julia, and if stupidity were an Olympic sport, I'd probably have been coaching the national team for the past 8 months. But here's the plot twist that would make even Netflix jealous. I already knew about their little romance novel. I'd known since Brandon started coming home smelling like Victoria's Secret perfume that definitely wasn't mine. Unless I'd suddenly developed amnesia and a taste for bombshell fragrance. It was a Thursday morning when my phone buzzed with what I initially thought was a wrong number. The message read, "Hi, Julia. Just wanted to share some amazing memories from our trip," followed by approximately 27 photos of my dear husband Brandon and his colleague Amanda living their best life across Europe. Now, let me paint you a picture of Amanda. She's the type of person who probably practices her surprised face in the mirror and thinks subtlety is a foreign language. 26 years old, blonde highlights that cost more than most people's rent, and the kind of confidence that comes from never having faced real consequences. She works in Brandon's marketing department. Because of course she does. Nothing says professional relationship like matching his work schedule and coincidentally needing to attend every single client dinner. The photos were thorough. Amanda had documented everything from their romantic dinner in Paris, complete with champagne and candlelit ambiance, to their cozy moments in what appeared to be a luxury hotel in Rome. She'd even included a selfie of them both looking absolutely exhausted but satisfied. And trust me, it wasn't from all the sightseeing. But here's where Amanda's master plan hit its first snag. She apparently thought I was some clueless housewife who'd collapse in tears and beg Brandon to come home. Instead, I found myself laughing so hard that my coffee almost came out of my nose. Not because the situation was funny. Well, okay, it was a little funny. But because this girl had just handed me the ultimate gift. Undeniable proof of everything I'd been quietly documenting for months. You see, while Amanda was busy planning her grand revelation, I'd been playing a completely different game. I'd hired a private investigator back in March when Brandon's overtime started coinciding with Amanda's mysterious Friday afternoon appointments. I had bank statements showing unexplained withdrawals, credit card receipts from restaurants I'd never been to, and hotel bookings for romantic weekends that apparently didn't include me. My lawyer, Patricia Chen, a woman so sharp she could cut glass with her business cards, had already prepared all the divorce paperwork. We were just waiting for the right moment to serve it. Amanda had just gift-wrapped that moment with a pretty little European bow. The funniest part? Brandon had told me he was attending a digital marketing conference in Chicago. According to Amanda's helpful photo documentation, this conference apparently involved the Eiffel Tower, the Colosseum, and what looked like enough Italian wine to float a small yacht. Either Chicago had undergone some serious urban renovation, or my husband had discovered the magical art of bilocation. I spent about 10 minutes studying each photo with the dedication of an art historian analyzing a Renaissance masterpiece. Amanda had been incredibly thorough. There were photos of them holding hands by the Seine, sharing pasta in what appeared to be a very expensive Roman restaurant, and cuddling on what looked like a private balcony overlooking the Mediterranean. She'd even included a mirror selfie from their hotel room, both of them in matching bathrobes with that post-shower glow that suggested their cultural exploration had extended to some very personal museums. The thing that struck me most wasn't anger, it was the sheer audacity. Amanda had spent our family's money, because yes, those credit card bills would be coming to our joint account, to create memories with my husband, then decided to rub my nose in it like I was a dog who'd made a mess on the carpet. But here's what Amanda didn't know about me. I don't crumble, I strategize. While she was busy playing amateur photographer, I'd been playing chess. And honey, I was about 3 moves away from checkmate. I poured myself another cup of coffee, opened my laptop, and began typing what would become Amanda's career obituary. Because if she wanted to play games with my marriage, we were about to play by my rules. And my rules included the company group chat where her boss, his boss, And the entire HR department would get to enjoy her vacation slideshow just as much as I had. The irony was delicious. Amanda thought she was dropping a bomb on my life, but she'd actually just lit the fuse on her own. Because while she was busy trying to destroy my Thursday morning, she had no idea that I'd already planned to destroy everything she cared about. Sometimes the universe has a sense of humor darker than my morning coffee. And today, that humor was about to teach Amanda that when you try to play puppet master with someone else's life, you better make sure you're not handing them the scissors to cut your own strings. I saved all her photos to a special folder I created called Evidence, right next to the folder labeled Divorce Documents, and another one titled Amanda's Career Suicide Note. Because organization is key when you're about to orchestrate the most beautiful disaster of someone's professional life. The stage was set. The players were in position, and Amanda had just handed me the script for her own downfall. Let me tell you about the months leading up to Amanda's photography exhibition, because this story didn't start with European vacation pictures. It started with the subtle art of being ignored in your own marriage. Brandon and I had been married for 12 years, 12 years of what I thought was a solid partnership, complete with shared dreams, inside jokes, and the kind of comfortable routine that comes from truly knowing someone, or so I thought. Apparently, while I was busy being a devoted wife, Brandon was busy auditioning for the role of devoted boyfriend to someone who could fit into my college jeans. The signs started small, as they always do. Brandon began working late more often, which in retrospect was about as believable as a politician's campaign promises. He'd come home at 9 or 10 p.m., claiming exhaustion from challenging clients and strategic planning sessions. I'd heat up his dinner, ask about his day, and get responses shorter than a tweet. "How was work, honey?" I'd ask, like the dutiful wife I was trained to be. "Fine. Busy. You know how it is," he'd mumble, already scrolling through his phone with the intensity of a surgeon performing brain surgery. What I didn't realize was that he was probably texting Amanda about their next business lunch or client meeting, because nothing says professional development like spending 2 hours at the Italian place downtown that charges $30 for pasta. Then came the physical changes. Brandon suddenly developed an interest in fitness that would have impressed the Olympic trainer. The man who previously considered walking to the mailbox cardio was now hitting the gym at 6 a.m. every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. He bought new cologne, something woody and expensive that made him smell like he was trying to seduce a forest. His wardrobe got an upgrade too, with shirts that actually fit and pants that weren't purchased during the Clinton administration. When I complimented these changes, he'd shrug them off with the casual indifference of someone who was clearly getting his ego stroked elsewhere. "Just trying to stay healthy," he'd say, flexing muscles that had mysteriously appeared overnight like some kind of fitness fairy had visited our house. The really pathetic part? I actually encouraged it. I was that wife who bought him new workout gear for his birthday and praised his dedication to self-improvement. I was basically funding my own humiliation with a smile and a, "You look great, honey." Amanda's integration into our lives was a masterpiece of manipulation. She started appearing in Brandon's work stories with increasing frequency. "Amanda thinks this," and "Amanda suggested that," and "Amanda has this great idea about." Amanda was apparently the marketing department's answer to Einstein, Steve Jobs, and Mother Teresa, all rolled into one perfectly highlighted package. When Brandon started mentioning their collaborative projects, I thought it was sweet that he'd found such a dedicated colleague. When he told me about their brainstorming dinners, I thought it showed real professional commitment. When he explained their off-site strategy sessions, I actually felt proud that his company valued such thorough planning. I was so naive, I probably would have packed his lunch for their romantic getaways if he'd asked nicely. The breaking point should have been when Brandon forgot our wedding anniversary. 12 years of marriage, and it slipped his mind like a grocery list. When I gently reminded him that evening, he panicked with the grace of a deer in headlights, then ordered flowers online while I was standing right there. Nothing says, "You're important to me," like watching your husband Google same-day flower delivery at 9 p.m. But even then, I made excuses for him. Work stress, economic pressure, the general chaos of modern life. I was so busy being understanding that I forgot to demand respect. The missed calls started around the same time. Brandon's phone would ring during dinner, and he'd glance at it with the kind of secretive smile usually reserved for lottery winners and people receiving love letters. "Work call," he'd say, declining it. "I'll call them back later." Later turned out to be during his long bathroom breaks, his sudden grocery store runs, and his newfound enthusiasm for walking the dog. Our poor golden retriever, Max, was getting more exercise than he'd had in his entire life, because Brandon suddenly needed 30-minute dog walks every evening. I started feeling like a supporting character in my own life. Dinner conversations revolved around Brandon's work challenges, specifically challenges that Amanda was helping him solve. Weekend plans got canceled because of sudden project deadlines. Date nights disappeared because Brandon was too mentally exhausted from his demanding job. The cruel irony was that I was actually happy for what I thought was his professional success. When he told me about his business trips, I encouraged him. When he mentioned working late with Amanda on important presentations, I praised his work ethic. When he started dressing better and caring more about his appearance, I thought it meant he was feeling good about himself. I was literally cheering for my own betrayal like the world's most clueless cheerleader. Amanda's name became as common in our house as hello and goodbye. She had opinions about everything from marketing strategies to restaurant choices, and Brandon quoted her like she was some kind of millennial prophet. The woman was apparently brilliant at market analysis, innovative in creative thinking, and possessed insights that could revolutionize their entire department. What she apparently wasn't brilliant at was discretion, because her little photo-sharing adventure was about to prove that book smarts and street smarts are two entirely different skill sets. The night before Amanda's photography showcase, Brandon had called to extend his Chicago conference by another day. "The sessions are running long," he explained, his voice carrying that fake exhaustion that actors use in soap operas. "Amanda and I need to attend some additional workshops tomorrow." I bet they did. And I bet those workshops had names like Advanced Cuddling Techniques and How to Spend Someone Else's Money 101. So when my phone buzzed Thursday morning with Amanda's carefully curated vacation album, my first thought wasn't heartbreak or shock. It was genuine amusement at the sheer stupidity of it all. She'd just documented a federal case of embezzlement, adultery, and fraud, then delivered it directly to the person who had the most to gain from that evidence. Sometimes the trash really does take itself out. It just takes a European vacation to do it. After Amanda's little slideshow, I sat at my kitchen table with the kind of calm usually reserved for surgeons and bomb disposal experts. Because that's exactly what I was about to become. Someone who dismantles lives with surgical precision. My first call was to Patricia Chen, my lawyer, who answered on the second ring like she'd been waiting for this moment her entire legal career. "Julia, please tell me you have good news." Patricia's voice had the eager quality of a shark smelling blood in the water. "Define good news," I said, pulling up Amanda's photos on my laptop. "Because I've got enough evidence to bury my husband and his girlfriend so deep they'll need archaeological equipment to find their reputations." Patricia practically purred. "Send everything. And I mean everything. Photos, dates, credit card statements, the works. We're going to make this divorce so thorough, Brandon will wish he'd never learned how to spell Amanda." While Patricia worked her legal magic, I had my own masterpiece to orchestrate. See, Amanda had made one crucial mistake in her grand revelation. She'd included photos with timestamps, location tags, and enough identifying details to create a timeline that would make FBI investigators jealous. But more importantly, she'd underestimated who she was dealing with. Amanda saw me as the boring wife who'd collapse in tears and maybe throw some dishes. What she didn't realize was that I'd spent 12 years learning everything about Brandon's company, his colleagues, his boss, and exactly how their corporate hierarchy functioned. I knew that Brandon's supervisor, Michael Rodriguez, had a zero-tolerance policy for workplace relationships, especially ones that involved expense account fraud. I knew that their HR director, Sarah Kim, had recently implemented new guidelines about professional conduct after a similar scandal at their sister company. Most importantly, I knew that their quarterly review meeting was scheduled for Friday morning, with the entire marketing department present. Amanda had handed me a gift, and I was about to return the favor with interest. My next call was to my sister Emma, who worked in social media consulting and had a PhD in making things go viral for all the wrong reasons. "Emma, I need your expertise in corporate digital destruction," I said without preamble. "Finally, I've been waiting for you to weaponize your niceness," Emma laughed. "What's the target?" "Brandon's girlfriend just sent me vacation photos of their European romance. I want to make sure their entire company gets to enjoy the cultural experience." Emma was quiet for exactly 3 seconds. "You devious genius. Send me everything. I'll create a presentation that would make PowerPoint jealous." While Emma worked her digital magic, I focused on the psychological warfare aspect. See, Amanda thought she held all the cards because she had youth, blonde highlights, and the ability to fit into a size 6 dress. What she didn't have was patience, strategy, or the life experience that comes from being underestimated for over a decade. I spent Thursday afternoon creating what I privately called the Amanda Files, a comprehensive dossier of her relationship with my husband, complete with financial records, timeline analysis, and impact assessment. It read like a case study in how to destroy your career in 10 easy steps. The beauty of Amanda's mistake wasn't just that she'd documented everything, it was that she'd been sloppy about it. The credit card receipts I'd been collecting for months suddenly made perfect sense when cross-referenced with her photo timestamps. The business dinner at Chez Laurent on March 15th matched perfectly with her Instagram story from the same restaurant. The client entertainment charge at the Ritz-Carlton corresponded exactly with her tagged location from that weekend. She'd created a paper trail that would make prosecutors weep with joy. But the real stroke of genius was in how I planned to deliver this information. Amanda expected screaming, tears, maybe a confrontational phone call to Brandon. Instead, she was about to get a masterclass in professional warfare that would be studied in business schools for years to come. I crafted my company group message with the care of a poet writing their magnum opus. The tone was perfect. Concerned wife seeking clarification, with just enough confusion to make everyone read the entire thing. I attached Amanda's photos alongside the corresponding expense reports, creating a side-by-side comparison that told the story more effectively than any accusation could. The subject line read, "Expense account clarification needed. Urgent review required." The message began, "Hi everyone, I hope this email finds you well. I'm reaching out because I've received some photos from Amanda that have left me quite confused about Brandon's recent business trips. I'm hoping someone can help clarify these expense reports, as there seems to be some discrepancy between the reported business activities and what appears to be documented in these images." Then I attached everything, every single photo, cross-referenced with expense reports, hotel receipts, and restaurant charges. I even included a helpful timeline showing how Brandon's Chicago conference had somehow involved the Eiffel Tower, the Colosseum, and approximately 6 different countries. The group chat included Brandon's entire department, his boss, HR, accounting, and about 40 other people who would now get to enjoy Amanda's European photography exhibition from a completely different perspective. But here's where my plan got truly diabolical. I didn't send it immediately. Instead, I scheduled it for Friday morning at 9 a.m., exactly when Brandon and Amanda would be sitting in their quarterly review meeting, probably congratulating themselves on their successful business trip. Emma had also prepared a backup plan. If the company tried to contain the situation internally, she'd created a social media campaign that would ensure Amanda's career suicide became public knowledge. Because nothing says professional development like having your workplace affair trending on LinkedIn. Thursday night, I treated myself to a bottle of wine and the kind of bubble bath usually reserved for celebrations. Because tomorrow, Amanda would learn that when you try to destroy someone's life, you better make sure they don't have the tools, knowledge, and sheer vindictive creativity to destroy yours first. I raised my wine glass to the bathroom mirror and smiled. "Here's to consequences," I said to my reflection. "May they be swift, public, and absolutely devastating." 24 hours earlier, Amanda thought she was holding a royal flush. Tomorrow morning, she'd discover she'd been playing poker with someone who owned the entire casino. Friday morning at 9 a.m. sharp, my carefully crafted email detonated in the company group chat like a nuclear bomb at a peace summit. I was sitting in my kitchen with my coffee, watching my phone light up with the kind of frantic energy usually reserved for natural disasters and stock market crashes. The responses started trickling in within minutes, and by 9:15, it was a full-scale corporate avalanche. The first response came from Sarah Kim in HR. This requires immediate investigation. All parties mentioned, please report to Conference Room B immediately. Then Michael Rodriguez, Brandon's boss. What in the absolute hell is this? Followed by Jenny Martinez from accounting. These expense reports are definitely not for Chicago. But my personal favorite came from Tom Wilson, the company's compliance officer. I count at least 6 policy violations in these photos alone. Possibly 7 if that's champagne on a business expense. Meanwhile, Emma had positioned herself as my inside intelligence source through her friend who worked in the building across from Brandon's company. She was providing me with real-time updates via text that read like a sports commentary. Emergency meeting called. Amanda looks like she's going to throw up. Brandon just ran out of the conference room, literally ran. HR director is printing out your email, all 15 pages of it. Amanda is crying in the bathroom, like, ugly crying. The beauty of the situation was that I didn't have to do anything except exist. Amanda had created this mess with her own hands, documented it with her own camera, and delivered it with her own arrogance. I was just the messenger, albeit a messenger with impeccable timing and a comprehensive understanding of corporate policy violations. My phone rang at 9:47 a.m. Brandon's name flashed on the screen, and I let it ring exactly 4 times before answering with the tone of someone discussing the weather. Hello, Brandon. How's your Chicago conference going? The silence stretched so long, I actually checked to make sure the call hadn't dropped. Julia, we need to talk, he finally managed, his voice carrying the kind of panic usually reserved for people who've just realized they've been texting their ex while drunk. Oh, we absolutely do, I agreed cheerfully. Patricia Chen is available this afternoon. She's very excited to discuss your recent travel expenses with you. Julia, please, this isn't what it looks like. Brandon, sweetie, I interrupted, using the patient tone I'd reserve for explaining basic concepts to a confused child. Amanda documented your entire relationship with the thoroughness of a National Geographic photographer. It looks exactly like what it is. Another silence. Then, how did you... Your girlfriend sent me all the photos this morning. Apparently, she thought I needed to see your cultural education firsthand. Very thoughtful of her, really. I could practically hear his brain short-circuiting through the phone. She what? Oh yes, Amanda wanted to make sure I got the full European experience. Paris, Rome, that lovely little hotel in Tuscany. She was very thorough. Almost as thorough as the expense reports you filed, claiming this was all business-related. The sound Brandon made was somewhere between a whimper and the noise a balloon makes when you let the air out too fast. By 10:30 a.m., Emma reported that Amanda had been escorted from the building by security, carrying a cardboard box that apparently contained her entire career. The speed of corporate justice when you hand them a gift-wrapped case of embezzlement and ethics violations is truly something to behold. At 11:15, Patricia called with updates that made my morning coffee taste like victory champagne. Julia, you beautiful, devious genius. Patricia's voice was practically singing. Brandon's employer is not only terminating him, they're pursuing legal action for fraudulent expense claims. We're looking at criminal charges for embezzlement, and the divorce proceedings are going to be like shooting fish in a barrel. And Amanda? Amanda is currently unemployed, facing potential criminal charges as an accessory, and dealing with what appears to be a complete social media meltdown. Emma's friend says she's been calling former colleagues all morning, begging them not to share the photos. The irony was delicious. Amanda had spent so much effort documenting their romance, she'd forgotten that evidence has a way of working both ways. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Amanda. Julia, please, we need to talk. This is all a misunderstanding. I stared at the message for a full minute, marveling at the audacity. Then I responded with the kind of professional courtesy Amanda had shown me. Hi, Amanda. Thanks for the photos. They were very helpful for my lawyer. Hope you enjoyed Europe. Brandon called 17 more times throughout the day. I answered exactly 0 of those calls, but I did listen to the increasingly desperate voicemails with the kind of entertainment value usually reserved for reality TV. Message number 3. Julia, please. Amanda made a mistake. She wasn't supposed to send those. Message number 7. This is crazy, Julia. You're destroying both our careers over nothing. Message number 12. I'm coming home. We can work this out. Message for 17. Julia, Patricia won't take my calls. Please, just tell me what you want. What I wanted was exactly what I was getting. Justice served with a side of public humiliation and a garnish of legal consequences. By Friday evening, Emma had compiled a highlight reel of the day's corporate drama that read like a Shakespearean tragedy, if Shakespeare had written about marketing departments and expense account fraud. Amanda's LinkedIn profile has been deactivated, Emma reported over wine at my kitchen table. Brandon's been removed from the company directory, and apparently their boss sent a company-wide email about expense account policies that specifically mentions romantic European getaways as unacceptable business expenses. I raised my wine glass. Here's to Amanda's photography skills. Without her documentation, this would have taken months to prove. Here's to women who underestimate other women. Emma clinked her glass against mine. Fatal mistake, every single time. The best part? I didn't have to be vindictive, cruel, or even particularly clever. Amanda had built her own house of cards, documented its construction, and then handed me the evidence with a bow on top. I just had to know exactly where to place it for maximum structural damage. Sometimes the trash really does take itself out. It just needs a little help finding the right dumpster. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my newly redecorated living room. Turns out Brandon's half of our assets bought some really nice furniture, reflecting on how Amanda's little photography project became the gift that kept on giving. The divorce was finalized faster than a drive-through order. When you hand a judge documented evidence of adultery, embezzlement, and fraud, they tend to move things along with impressive efficiency. Patricia wasn't kidding when she said it would be like shooting fish in a barrel. Brandon walked away with his personal belongings, his student loan debt, and a criminal record that would make future employers very interested in his expense account management skills. Amanda, bless her documented heart, learned that confidence without competence is just expensive stupidity. Last I heard through Emma's corporate intelligence network, she was working at a small marketing firm in another state, probably wondering why nobody wants to hire someone whose previous job ended with her literally being escorted out by security while carrying a box of shame. The beautiful irony is that Amanda thought she was playing chess while I was playing checkers. What she didn't realize was that I wasn't playing games at all. I was conducting a symphony, and she'd just handed me the perfect crescendo. Brandon tried the reconciliation tour for exactly 2 weeks. Flowers, apologies, promises that he'd learned his lesson and would do anything to save our marriage. The problem with that strategy was that I'd already moved past saving anything. I'd evolved into someone who was more interested in starting fresh than recycling trash. His final attempt at redemption came via a handwritten letter, because apparently nothing says, "I'm serious about change," like cursive writing and expensive stationery. The letter was 3 pages of explanations, excuses, and promises that would have impressed a creative writing professor. He blamed stress, midlife crisis, Amanda's manipulation, and everything short of global warming for his choices. I read the entire thing while eating ice cream directly from the container, which felt like the appropriate literary criticism for such fiction. My response was a single text. "Dear Brandon, thank you for the entertainment. Patricia says hi." The most surprising development wasn't the divorce outcome. It was how much I enjoyed being single again. Turns out, when you're not constantly making excuses for someone else's behavior, you have significantly more mental energy for your own life. I started painting again, something I'd abandoned somewhere between supporting Brandon's career development and pretending his absence was normal. I also discovered that I'm apparently quite good at strategic thinking when I'm not using those skills to rationalize someone else's obvious lies. Emma suggested I consider a career change to corporate consulting, specializing in strategic relationship management, which is apparently a polite way of saying, helping people destroy their enemies professionally. The community response was educational. Some people thought I was vindictive and should have handled the situation privately. These were usually the same people whose own relationships were held together with denial and wishful thinking. Others thought Amanda got what she deserved for being stupid enough to document her own crimes. Both groups provided excellent entertainment at neighborhood gatherings. My favorite response came from my neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, who brought me cookies and said, "Honey, that girl handed you a loaded gun and asked you to shoot her career. You'd have been crazy not to pull the trigger." Mrs. Henderson understands justice. The strangest part of this whole experience was realizing how much energy I'd been wasting on being understanding. For years, I'd been so busy giving Brandon the benefit of the doubt that I forgot to require him to earn it. I'd been so focused on being a good wife that I forgot to demand a good husband in return. Amanda's photography exhibition taught me that sometimes the universe doesn't send you subtle signs. Sometimes it sends you a complete idiot with a smartphone and delusions of grandeur. And when that happens, the only appropriate response is gratitude for such clear communication. These days, I wake up in a house where nobody is lying to me about business trips, where my credit cards are only used for things I actually purchase, and where the only person I need to trust is myself. It's remarkably peaceful. I still get updates about Brandon and Amanda through Emma's corporate gossip network. Apparently, they tried to maintain their relationship after losing their jobs, but it turns out that romance built on deception and funded by someone else's money doesn't translate well to unemployment and criminal charges. Who could have predicted that? The last I heard, Amanda was dating someone new. Hopefully someone who understands that vacation photos are meant for scrapbooks, not evidence files. As for me, I'm considering online dating, but only after I finish enjoying the quiet satisfaction of a life where the only drama is whatever I'm watching on Netflix. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply living well enough to laugh at the people who thought they could play games with your happiness. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you turn stupidity into entertainment and betrayal into liberation. Some people collect stamps. I apparently collect evidence. Both hobbies require patience, but only one comes with a happy ending.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.